Hello, Roger. How are you?
Hello. I'm great. How are you?
Why are you laughing?
Because I'm just so full of joy to be here
Oh,
with you now and have this
oh.
conversation. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought you were
Why,
laughing
why are
of
you
me.
not laughing? That's what I'm wondering. Okay, there we
No.
go. Good.
Yes, perfect. I'm full of joy. It's been a while. I feel like it's
Yeah.
been forever, years since the last time we spoke.
Yeah. A lot has happened.
Yeah. I was just thinking the other day because I think the last time we talked, it was because it was before you went to your Janus retreat. That was in June. May.
That was May.
Wow, it was in May. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's August now.
yeah, it's August now, and so it's been 3 months. And I was just thinking, since you were gone, and we haven't spoken. Well, we've seen each other in the meditation sessions, and then I was thinking, a lot has changed, like spiritually for me since then. I mean, nothing like I have read a lot. I have meditated a lot. I have met a lot of people with the same interests. So I was just thinking, wow,
Thanks.
I remember asking you things that now I know, and then I remember how was I confused when we were talking about no self and things like that. And now I haven't had any experience with that, but now it's basic. Now I'm talking about other things,
Cool. Yeah.
There are other harder things now. So
great. That's
3
so good
months.
to hear.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. So we are here now today to talk about a podcast that actually, if it was not you, it was Sean who recommended. It's called Deconstructing Yourself by Michael Taft. Yeah, so I believe you are very familiar with the work with Michael Taft's work, right? Have you been listening to him for a while now?
Yeah, for years. Yeah.
Wow,
I
cool.
don't remember the first time I listened to the podcast we're going to talk about. I don't know, 4 years ago or something.
Wow. It's impressive. I've been working with Michael Taft in a course called Vast Sky Mind. And I remember that I asked him a question before subscribing to the course. I asked him because I thought the course was like pretty advanced for me. He's teaching non-dual meditation. And then I asked him, like, I sent him an email, and I found him very accessible teacher. And then I said, hey, Michael, I would love to join the course, but I'm just starting and I have a lot of problems in my life. Like I am trying to exercise, and then I overshared, like I have that problem and that other problem. And then I don't know how that reconcile with meditation, especially with the type you teach. Like, should I figure it out my life first and then come back later to that? And then he said, no, I believe those things go hand in hand. So you can join. And then I did. And then I understood what he meant. Like, and actually, while I meditate, the more I meditate, I'd say, the more my other, I guess I'm starting to find like a balance. I do still have some problems, but I understand that I don't need to figure them out first. It's like when I tell people you should meditate, and then they say, I need to learn how not to think first. It's not how it works, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was listening to The Science of Enlightenment the other day, and just, chapter 1, right at the beginning, Shinzen says, like mindfulness training is the skill of all skills, the ultimate skill, because everything you do in life requires presence and concentration. So if you get this, it will help you in all other aspects of life.
Yeah. So cool. We should all try to practice that. So I have a lot of comments and questions for you about this episode that I happened to listen 5 times. So Michael Taft, he usually invites people to talk, other teachers to talk to on his podcast. And in this episode, he invited Kenneth Folk, and they were talking about something called the comic joke. No, the cosmic joke. Yeah,
cosmic joke.
The cosmic joke. And I guess that was the reason why I clicked on the episode, because I was like, the cosmic joke. What is that? I want to get that. What is the joke, right? And so they start talking about this philosopher called Thomas Metzinger, Thomas Metzinger, yeah, and how he came up with a mnemonic, like the letters, like corner. That
I don't know what that's called, but I know what you mean. What's it called? Yeah, I know what you mean, Connor. Yeah.
Yeah. So Connor would be the each letter in this word represents how suffers is made of, like.
Oh no! Each letter in this word stands for a word. Each letter, stands for a word, which make up the components of suffering. Yeah.
Yeah, the conditions to suffering. And well, I found it very interesting. I didn't know that all the suffering had like had an explanation. And actually, I've been trying to apply that, and it is true. So in order to suffer, we would have to have like these 4 components, where C stands for consciousness, O stands for ownership, N stands for negative valence, and R stands for realness. So if we could, so the first thing is to understand which is each, and then how we could eliminate one or suspend one, and then all the suffering would disappear potentially, I guess.
Yes.
So would you like to explain what is consciousness?
Yes.
If you don't remember, I could. But it's great to hear you talk, your beautiful accent. So what consciousness, negative valence, ownership, and realness means?
Realness, yeah. It's funny. I remember listening to this, and because I came up with a similar conditions for what suffering is, and actually I described it, I think, on one of our previous videos, where it's kind of the same, but I didn't have the realness component. I said negative valence, self, and contraction. For me, I thought these were the 3 necessary conditions for suffering. But let's go with Connor. So consciousness is just the fact that you're having the fact that there is a subjective experience. It feels like something to be you. Ownership will be there is a self. This experience is happening to me, my experience. Negative valence pertains to there's an inherent disliking or negative judgment associated with a phenomenon or set of phenomena. And then realness is that, well, this is actually happening. This is not a dream. This is an experience that has consequences and actual effects.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I was remembering something when the ownership part. Have you ever seen any movie where people changes bodies? They change bodies, and then the person who is another person's life, nothing is personal for them. Like if that person, the other person who changed body, had a fight with the mom, now this other person in that body, it's not facing, it's okay, mom, because it was not her thing. I could only think of that, how, it's
I could think of situations like that.
in movies where
like, don't do that to my body or something like
so also Yeah, they told the story of this sleeping millionaire that actually made me think of something you told me before. So the sleeping millionaire, he's sleeping, and then he invites all his friends to a feast. And then when the dinner is ready and his servants wake him up, he is actually furious that he was woken up because he loved that state of unconsciousness. And then I remembered you saying that, like, when you were in no self state, that it felt better because it had zero suffering in it. Yeah. And then I was thinking, also remembering that you said that you cannot function in this state. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more. How is it like? They were also discussing nirvana and how people actually think nirvana is heaven, and then we are going to like it, but that it's not going to be you there to like it. And so how does that bring happiness if there is no one there to feel happiness? How would why would make a case, like, why would I want to be there?
I mean, I would argue in Nirvana, there's no happiness either.
Oh, okay. But
Yeah,
it is a state of bliss, because indeed, when I am sleeping and when I wake up, I feel like that small, even if it's going to be a great day, like I love Tuesdays because we have our meditation session, they're very light. And even if I'm waking up in a Tuesday, still, I wish I hadn't. There is something about
yes.
a bliss of not being conscious.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would argue that during the period in which you're not conscious, there isn't actually any bliss. There's no experiences. It's nothing. But on either side of the unconsciousness, maybe you're looking forward to not being conscious, or you remember the unconsciousness, and then that's kind of a gleeful thought, at least. Well, there's something to be said, actually, maybe an idea that incredibly blissful states, when like maximized, actually lead to unconsciousness. There's something, maybe the sort of the happier you get, it actually, up to a certain point, like cancels out consciousness, and then you have cessations. Have you heard of cessations?
No,
Michael Taft talks about cessations. These are moments where you're meditating and consciousness just blacks out for a moment. Wow. And it's like kind of the peak. Yeah.
Wow.
And then consciousness comes back, and yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. So in order to cut any suffering, one component that we could eliminate is consciousness.
Consciousness.
So we could go to sleep, or we could try
have
to
a cessation, experience nirvana.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe. Yeah, that's one way.
Yeah. And then the second that we could eliminate, it's ownership. And then in that part, I understood that we should like deconstruct the self and ask, in each given moment or experience, we could ask, to whom is this happening? And so I am suffering because I have a headache. Who have a headache? Or I could try that Shinzen Yang thing, like trying to see that everything is a wave pattern and deconstruct the sensation up until the point where there is no one feeling that. Am I understanding this correctly? Would it be it?
Yeah.
The sense of ownership.
You can do a couple of moves. You can either like remove the sense of self from the feeling. So like you like move it. So you can do like a dissociative move, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna like, some people might identify with awareness and be like, okay, I'm not the pain, but I'm the thing that is aware of pain, in which case you've moved the sense of self. You've detached it from the feeling component. Or yeah, you can totally deconstruct the self, and so there's no self, part of self in experience at all, and then you're just left with sensations without negative valence, really.
I like how they are all somehow connected to one another, because in negative valence, it's how things feel. So for example, I don't like, let's say, broccoli. So it feels good. I'm exaggerating, right? But it feels bad to me, like, whereas ice cream feels good. So I could, and then they mentioned jhana, how when you are in altered state, like when you enter jhanas, you start feeling that everything is a bliss, everything is good, everything is beautiful. But at the same time, I don't think you could go to a supermarket and stay in line in a jhana state. Can you?
Yeah,
could you?
You could try. It'd be difficult. You could try.
Yeah. So how could I make a negative valence disappear? How could I stare at a plate of broccoli and say, that's all I have, I need to eat? How would I make that, enjoyable or bearable, or without entering a jhana? Let's say I don't know how to, and I do not know, actually.
Yes. Yeah, I would actually sort of modify a little bit what you said. You said it's like negative valence, or valence is how something feels. I wouldn't say it's how it feels. I think it's this base level judgment placed on top of a feeling. So you can feel a sensation, maybe tingling somewhere, and then there can be negative valence associated with it or positive valence associated with it. But the how, the tingling is still the same. So, one technique for coping with negative valence or mitigating negative valence is by noting it, being aware, and noting negative, and just see that you objectify it, you make it less personal. Yes, it's kind of, they relate to each other, the other aspects. Like, there is a part of me that's just judging this experience as inherently negative or bad. And you just make that an objective fact, like it's a fact, a neutral fact, negative. That's one way you can do it, something you can do.
Okay, no, it's helpful. It's helpful. And I wanted to ask you some things, because I know you've been to this jhanas retreat. So is it life better now that you have experienced great levels of joy, content? Are you happier? Would you say that?
Yeah, maybe it shows on my face.
Yeah, you are happier.
Not because of the jhanas. Not because of the jhanas. Okay. I am happier, but not because of the jhanas. Yes, okay. Yes. Although maybe in a practical way, the jhanas. There might be something to be said about if you spend more time in positive states, you strengthen the pathways in your brain towards those positive states, and you strengthen the connections, and you wire yourself more in accordance with positive states. But no, I think the jhanas are another kind of coping mechanism. They're another altered state. They're temporary. They come and they go. When you leave the jhana, then you're just kind of maybe more back to a normal way of living. Yeah. So they're useful. They're interesting. They provide insights, but they're not the ultimate thing.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Yeah. So then they move with a conversation after they talk about how to suppress these parts, these elements to suffering, for suffering. And then they talk about something that I wanted to ask you, because it felt to me like they were describing awakening or enlightenment like the end of suffering. Is that it? Is it enlightenment? Could I put in these words? Enlightenment or awakening is the end of suffering?
The understanding that I've come to is I do think it's the end of dukkha. And I would parse a distinction between suffering and dukkha, actually, a subtle distinction.
Okay.
They
I understand them as the same, but suffering would be like normal, plain old daily suffering, whereas dukkha would be related like to existence, like in a core thing.
Yeah, it could, and it could be. I'm still trying to figure out this difference, but or how to define the difference. But for me, there's like, yeah,
I'm here. Just
suffering, I think, really is negative valence. Just inherent kind of, there's some aspect of experience that is not preferable. So I think suffering is a wider category, and dukkha is a part of suffering. I'd relate dukkha more to some element of psychological suffering, sort of the way I think about it is when you still have a center or a self, you have a component where there's a subject and then phenomena and a relationship between the two. You've got a distance here, and in that distance is where the relationship can exist and where there's a place for judgment to arise. Like, this subject is not in agreement with this object, and they don't like each other, or they love each other, or there's attachment. When you become enlightened, you dissolve the center, and then there's no distance between the arising of phenomena and a subject for a relationship to exist. And so there's no relationship, there's no judgment to being, good or bad. It's just being, just existence. Yeah.
Wow, cool. Thank you. So they also describe, so this release from suffering would happen once we get the joke. So if we get the joke, the suffering would be released. Yeah. Released.
Relieved, released.
Yeah. And then they talk about like the bad student in the world and the worst and the better student. And then they tell a story. The worst and the best student in the world, and how one student, I guess I didn't wrote his name, but he understood the joke just when the Buddha told him that in the seeing there is only the seen, in the hearing that is only the heard. So that was referring back to no self, like no one. So he suddenly understood, whereas the Buddha had to do to a lot of, that was the worst student, he had to go to a lot of jhanas retreat, meditate a lot, because he thought because he thought that getting the joke had a lot to do with practicing a lot. And that, I guess that was the reason why I listened to this 5 times, because for me, it gave me like a sense of relief, because lately in the past months, I have been participating in so many forums, reading so many books, trying to meditate a lot, trying to get the joke so desperately, and not understanding a thing. And I've been like, and comparing my experiences to other people's experiences, like yours, for example. So you meditate 24 hours and I cannot meditate 25 minutes and so on and so forth. And so actually, when I heard that, it was like, oh, okay. So it's not that I'm renunciating the practice, because I understand that it's important to practice, but it's more, I felt like more at ease, like, okay, at ease, because as they explained that there is no future to get the joke, because I was thinking like, once I meditate 10,000 hours, I will get the joke. Once I do psychedelics, I will get the joke. It would always be in the future. So when they said that this is it, that's like the getting the joke is here. You either get it or you don't. I felt like, oh, okay, so it's just here. So, okay, it might be hidden somehow, could be, but it's here. So it made me, is it here, right? Don't tell me otherwise. What is it? The way you're looking. Where is it, Roger? Am I getting it wrong?
It's if I could do that, you know those magician tricks where they're like, oh, you've got something in your ear, and then they like kind of pull out like a big, like penny or something like that. Like, if I could pull out the joke from your ear, it's like, oh, it's right there.
Okay. Where is it?
So I actually disagree.
No, don't, please. I was so happy with that. No. What are you going to tell me? No. Roger, come on.
Yeah, because I think it's better than what they're saying, actually. I think this attitude, there is something to be said. They're not talking about something false. Like, there is a realization you can get where you come to, this is it. And but then Kenneth talks about losing it, and then he has to keep getting it. I think there's something in which you don't lose it. I think there's you can talk about getting it as a it's a framing tool, another coping mechanism. There's nothing to do. This is already it. And I actually disagree. I think there is something to do. I think there is a change that can be made. And yeah.
What do you mean? What changed? Is it practicing
like,
it?
My experience now is very different to my experience before I started meditating, and even after years of meditating. That they got to a point where there were moments where I could just go, oh, this is it. And that had a lot of relief. That brought, if I could just remember, at any moment, this is it. And that would reduce a lot of dukkha. But now I'm talking about something different. Now I think there's something else. Yeah. Where it's not about you keep remembering to pay attention. Oh, this is it.
Do you mean it's with you? You don't have to remember, you integrated it?
Yeah, there's like a permanent shift that can take place, and it's a total refabrication and reconstruction of your like modular perception of consciousness. There was a lot of tricky words I just put together, but the what I have now, this is it now for me, was not accessible before. Even though I could have moments of, this is it. But what that was not close to what this is.
Yeah. Wow. It must feel good, right?
The best.
Yeah. Wow. Jealous.
No, don't be jealous.
Okay. So you would say that it has to do with training then? Without training, would you be there where you are?
No.
So it requires the practice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. For me, at least, there are some people, I think, there are some people who this shift happens spontaneously, maybe without training, by accident. There's some people who are like born like this.
Yeah. And even there are some teachers that says that you could train your whole life and you could never get there. Some teacher says that it's either spontaneous or not.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
And let's just be concrete about what I'm talking about here, so it's not abstract.
Okay.
I'm talking about the permanent absence of a center, of a sense of a center in consciousness.
Okay, so yeah, I don't get it.
Okay.
Without ego, no self.
Yeah, that's connected to what I call like an epistemic agent, or the knower of experience. That there is a subject point in experience. Normally, for people, it's located sort of in their head here, or some people like in their chest, or it moves. There's a subject that knows experience. That if you have a sound here, the sound appears here, but the information has to travel to a subject point and is known here. You can just dissolve that center and then everything is known in its own place. The sound appears here and it is known here. It doesn't have to refer back to the subject.
Wow, impressive. Cool. Let's, okay.
Okay.
So, okay, so the part of getting the joke and getting the joke from time to time, like you said, like they was describing that they would lose the joke and then they would find the joke again and then they would lose again. And then they said that awakening or enlightened, it's not the only thing that it's outside of impermanence, that everything is impermanence, even the states of enlightenment. And so, and actually the book that I mentioned before that I'm reading, the guy, he is telling his experience, and he got the joke when he was, I love to say that, I will always be saying that, to get the joke, instead of saying he got enlightened or he had a,
Yeah, he got the
yeah,
joke.
he got the joke. He got the joke when he was 19, then he forgot the joke and then he lived his life.
He lived his life.
He lived his life in a bliss for a time, but then he forgot the joke because life comes in and the day-to-day errand things that we need to do. He forgot the joke and then he remembered the joke 20 years later. And do you see yourself like losing the joke now? Could that possibly happen? What does it take for us to lose the joke? Because for Kenneth, he thought that he had to, now that I got the joke, I need to meditate harder, practice harder, so I can understand more of the joke. And as he was describing, like, you said that before you didn't get the joke as much as you get it now, and maybe in the future you get it more than you get now. And so there are levels of understanding. So yeah, I guess I'm asking a lot of things because I'm confused. Do you understand what I'm getting? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I just talked about something permanent as well. I think that there is a mature position about from time to time losing the joke. But I guess I wanted to make a distinction between myself before and like getting the joke. It meant getting the joke meaning realizing that this is it, that there's nothing to do, this is it. Was a constant reminding process. Like I had to constantly remind myself, check in, remember this is it, this is it. And now I'm just contrasting that to how I am now, where it seems like a very permanent thing. However, who knows in the future, I could have moments or fail to realize that, oh, this is it already. And then you talk about layers of getting that this is it. I think what this is it just refers to a state of non-confusion. So either you're confused or you're not confused. But then if you are confused, there are different degrees of confusion. So you could be more or less confused. But at some point, you know, the scale slides all the way down to zero. It's just at zero. There's just no confusion.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember this guy in class, like with the course that I'm taking with Michael, the vast Sky Mind. There was this guy who asked a question. He said that when we were there meditating together and the non-dual practice, it felt great, but then he had to go back to his life and remember that. Now I'm not sure if it was his wife that passed or someone in his family. And then he said, okay, meditating here feels nice. It's good. But then I go back to my life and my wife or someone in my family is dead. And I need to deal with that grief. And because when I'm listening to podcasts, sometimes the examples that they use are examples like I'm having a heartache. Those are okay, right? I'm having a headache. I'm having
Oh,
a
I thought you said
headache.
heartache. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not heart. Yeah, well, could be, but I'm having a headache. I'm having like a pain in my back. Okay, but so how could I understand this is it when my cat is going through a surgery, another cat died. We are in the middle of pandemic in my country. 600, no, 600,000 people. I don't know how to say that. Half a million, over a half a million people died.
Yeah, 600,000.
600,000 and everything. Most of my friends are unemployed, and a lot of people, the people that live in the streets, they tripled. Lots of families living in the streets. So how do I look at all that and says, this is it, I'm content? And always, it does not feel. So when that guy answered, I don't remember the Michael Taft answer to that, because I sometimes the questions, or they are either so deep because they ask deep questions there, then he could give any answer. I didn't even got the question, let alone the answer. So I stopped listening so I won't get more confused. But that it was actually because it reminded me of the situation of my country. And then I don't remember his answer to that. But so, yeah. So what would you say on that? Like, life sucks, I am suffering, and how do I realize this is it and get enlightened?
Yeah, yeah.
Your face.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. It's so. I think what we need is we need to have a more complex framework of understanding. Okay, what is at play here? What are the different parts of myself and being, and then the whole sort of homogeneity of society and the universe. What are the different aspects? So when they say this is it, they're talking from a particular angle. And it's a particular angle that you can get in alignment with and adopt for a moment. That reality is what it is, good or bad. This is the state of things now. They could be saying that at a global level, or they could just be talking from a personal level that, oh, this is it. This is my condition right now. And my condition right now includes back pain or something like this. Or, you know, the condition of the world right now includes a great degree of poverty. It's possible to adopt this frame and recognize that this is it, while thinking, yeah, this is it, but what this is not good enough, not adequate, needs to be changed. We need to help. We need to change. We need to change what this is. At the same time, there's dimensions of consciousness that can still have this whole attitude of, okay, I want to help the world, change things in the world, and maintain an equanimity, you know, a spaciousness in your own mind, and having equanimity that okay, I recognize things should be better and still be, I'm okay, I'm at peace, I have equanimity in my mind. But that doesn't mean I become passive.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Acceptance.
there's just lots of these like components, you know, you can think, okay, and try to place, this is it. Where does this is it, this statement, where can it be positioned in all this complexity? And where you position it from a different place, it makes sense in a different way, or doesn't make sense.
No, yeah, it is so much complex then. Yeah. So this is it, is equanimity, acceptance to what is, whatever is arising, that's it. It does not mean that we couldn't change, but we start from a point where it is what it is and we accept fully what is there. Would it be it?
I mean, it sounds ironic though, because you would think if you were fully accepting of everything, then you wouldn't feel any urge or motivation to change things.
Yeah.
And I think there's truth in that, but the kind of the amazing thing about the intellect being a part of the mind that is not necessarily your emotions, can still think logically and still hold values that, no, when other people are suffering, that's a bad thing, I should change that, despite itself not being, despite itself being in a state that it finds it acceptable for itself. No, okay. The intellect, you know, is a part of the mind that can still think and plan and like logically try to motivate the organism to make change in the world. And then you can have the intellect moving for you, guiding you, while your emotional centers are not being like activated yourself, which causes you grief and suffering, and psychological issues and dukkha and negative valence. So that's a way of construing what you are as someone that can be accepting, coming from a place of this is it, and still be motivated to take action.
Yeah, it makes me think, now that I understand, of spiral dynamics. There are stages on spiral dynamics where you want to do things for your psychological, spiritual development. But then once you reach higher states, it would be where you don't feel the need. Everything will resolve or not resolve for itself. You don't need the need to do anything. But stages like green, for example, and then yellow, they still want to make positive changes and change, and they probably can and will and do. But once you move, it's just, I don't know. I remember Eckhart Tolle, and I took a course with him, and he on manifesting things, and then he said that the natural state is not wanting to interfere with anything unless you receive a call from the source. And I don't know how that happens, but then you receive this call and then you do things. I would say that you want to, and you are teaching people how to meditate, you want to do things, work with that. Would you say you received a call from the source? Or how would you explain that? It's not a necessity, but this wanting to share what you have.
I mean, there's one way, and maybe I wouldn't say it like that, but the universe is bigger than me, and there really is, you know, no self. Like, these are just forces in action. this organism will just do things as being totally interconnected with the universe. Physics will act upon this, and things will come out, things will be produced, and there's just something like being carried along with the stream. Yeah, I don't know, and I'm seeing the product of that as much as other people are seeing the product of what Roger is.
Amazing.
What about for you?
I don't know. I feel like I will use words like life purpose, careless. I don't know what it is, what that means exactly, but I love to teach. I love being a Portuguese teacher, and it makes me happy when I take my students from A0 to C1 and communicating. I do love to communicate. I think we can learn and grow when we can understand each other more. So I would say that languages are a passion, but I don't know if I was called from, I don't know, the universe to do that job. I don't know. But yeah, I do love that. I guess I'm not sure what it means to receive a call. Yeah.
But I don't think it should be interpreted as like it's a direct, thing, like, God literally, calls your
God.
mobile phone number and like, hey, hey, Camila, you need to do this and this and this. Oh, okay. It is just the result. You are the result of the Big Bang, and you can't go against that.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we ran completely out of time. I want to thank you for
to be continued.
Yeah. It's amazing, Roger. I always leave our conversations, our time together, feeling really inspired. So you've been, I guess, since I met you in 2019, I guess it was a spark of something. So I really appreciate you've been in my life for now over 2 years, and you've been of tremendous help, tremendous help and inspiration.
You've been of tremendous help.
Yeah.
Yeah, saying that, I really appreciate you being in my life. That's one of the nicest things I've heard in a long time. Thank you, Camila.
Oh, it's true. I do. Yeah.
Oh,
thank you. And I wish you a great week.
Thank you. See you later.
See you later. See you later. Literally in 3 hours.
Yeah, in a few hours. See you then.
See you.